Well, thank you all very much for being here. I wasn't expecting this crowd. I think you are living up to, what do I call it, the image I have of St. Martin's. This is the largest group I'll be facing in the past 2-3 years. So you are indeed the largest parish in the communion. And I will go about singing that song. What exactly is the Anglican Communion? In one sentence, I will say it is a miracle. That's the Anglican Communion. Why do I say it is a miracle? It is because we are very diverse. And I will share that with you shortly. As Brother Jordan said, we are between 85 and 90 million people. And we are found on every continent of the world. I had the very special privilege of visiting virtually every part of the communion, save Japan, Korea, and Papua New Guinea. These were the only 3 places I couldn't visit. I think I will want to begin by saying the Episcopal Church turns out to be the first, I have to be careful here, the first church of England outside England. Because the emigrants started what eventually changed the entire Anglican Communion. We don't have the time to go into that. But I'm beginning from there to let you know the role you played and the role we still expect the Episcopal Church to play in the communion. I mean, your role began as far back as even the first Lambeth Conference. But for the insistence of the Episcopal Church, it was then the Episcopal Church of the United States. You started as PECUSA, Protestant Episcopal Church of the USA, to Episcopal Church of the USA, and now you are the Episcopal Church. We don't have the time to go into all the history. But honestly, from my own limited experience, I want to challenge you today to think, pray, and take seriously the role you should be playing within the Anglican Communion of Churches. There are 42 different churches, different cultures. And that was why I began by saying the Anglican Communion is a miracle. It's like herding cats when you bring all the various presiding bishops together. Now, these 42 provinces have their representatives. Each country is entitled to one representative. America, you have the presiding bishop. England, you have the Archbishop of Canterbury, not York. York is an internal archbishop like I was in Nigeria. Kenya, they have one representative. It does not matter the number of members you have in your province. We have one presiding bishop. In the other parts of the world, they are called primates. In the Episcopal Church, they are called presiding bishops. Let me tickle you a little bit, because I like tickling my audience. When after 1776, the then Anglicans here, they never used the term Anglican, Church of England here, they wanted to continue. It was a minority church, very small church. And they then sent their Book of Common Prayer and their constitution to the Archbishop of Canterbury for the Parliament to look at. And everything was good, everything was accepted. They made two requests. One, that you should insert the Nicene Creed into your liturgy, your Eucharistic prayer. That was accepted. The second request, this is where I want to tickle you. The English people requested that you should crank up the position of the bishop a little bit. And the Americans said, no way, we're not going to do that. So you can see that here, you don't even have Archbishop, you don't have the Most Reverend. So I feel embarrassed when I go to parishes or dioceses in the Episcopal Church and they say the Most Reverend. And people ask, what does that mean? That's where America is America. It's a very exciting history, this your church, and I will plead with you as a very important parish in the Anglican Communion. I've been to virtually all the big ones. There is no parish as large as St. Martin's, and I mean it. 10,000 plus? No, I haven't seen that. If we had a St. Martin's in my home church, Nigeria, there would be 3 dioceses in this place. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. So you are important. Now, in order to get these 42 different churches to work together, we have what we call 4 instruments. The first instrument is the Archbishop of Canterbury. Even though he's a human being, he's an instrument. In the sense that he represents the communion. He represents the various presiding bishops when they meet, and when a decision is taken, often he serves as the spokesperson. He does not have any authority over any church. So we are not we don't have a pope. We have the Archbishop of Canterbury, and through the Archbishop of Canterbury, that is the province of Canterbury, not Church of England, you become a member of the Anglican Communion. And that is why the breakaway groups from the Episcopal Church and other parts of the Anglican world, they cannot become members of the Anglican Communion because they are not in communion with the Archbishop of Canterbury. I hope that is clear. Number 2, we have the primates meeting. I will use the term the presiding bishops meeting. So you have presiding bishops from these 42 provinces. They come together just to share experiences. What's going on in your church? What's going on in your church? This is the problem we have. How do we find solutions to this problem? However, their decisions, again, are not binding. They have no legal authority. They have some moral authority. And the third instrument is when all the bishops from the 42 provinces or churches come together once in 10 years. That is the Lambeth Conference. Again, the decisions there are not legally binding, but they have very serious moral authority. This is because each diocese is represented by the bishop. So the bishop is invited by the Archbishop of Canterbury to bring his or her diocese with her or with him, so that we hear the voices from the various dioceses. And they pray, they study together, and make recommendations. For these recommendations to be binding, each province, each church will have to debate, and each diocese in each church will have to debate and own it. There has to be that ownership. Without the ownership, it's not binding. And the fourth instrument is the Anglican Consultative Council, where we have a priest, a layperson, and a bishop from each of the 42 churches. They meet twice a year to discuss. It's like a house clearing committee. The decisions from the Lambeth Conference, the recommendations from the primates meeting, they discuss these and they make recommendations. So your church has 3 members, and we have now insisted that there must be a female and there must be a youth from each of these 42 provinces. Some have 3, others have 2, so that when decisions are taken, they go back to share our decisions. So this is one of the ways in which this miracle, this disjointed family works together through these 4 instruments. Now, there was a decision that was arrived at in 1872, at the Second Lambeth Conference, I think 1876. There were 4 agreements so that we keep together as a family. You know, within a family, you will always have misunderstandings. And so we agreed, Second Lambeth Conference, that 1, I will give examples, that the Bishop of Texas cannot go to Dallas and set up a parish there, or carve out Dallas and set up a new diocese. He cannot do it because we are one family. In other words, where there is an existing diocese with a bishop, another bishop from any part of the Anglican world cannot go there. I hope that is clear. That will give you an understanding of the way things are with breakaway provinces. I know that Nigeria, for example, they have carved out dioceses in this country. Now they have realized that it is wrong. Now, you know, if you are terribly arrogant, it's not easy for an arrogant person to accept that I'm wrong. So what they have done is to say, well, they are now missionary areas. And we have said to them, no, you don't leave your church and come to another church. If you do that, then you leave the communion. I hope you understand. That was the first thing. Number 2, that if the Episcopal Church goes through its polity, its system, its process, and arrives at a decision, if the Church of England does not like that decision, the best they can do is to respect it. I hope that is clear. You may not agree, you don't have to agree, but respect the decision of another church so that we can keep together. Number 3, if Jordan, one of your priests here, is going to Dallas, the bishop here cannot just send him there. He needs a letter recommending him to the bishop there, that Reverend Jordan is one of our priests, and he has my permission. He has my license. And then the Bishop of Dallas would accept the license, that letter, and give him his own license. So, these are ways we've always worked as a family because of the disagreements. But I want to say one thing. Your church played a very, very important role in this. Now, so these are ways we have tried to keep together. So the Anglican Communion of churches, see, we don't say the Anglican Communion Church. You talk about the Church of Rome. We don't have the Church of Canterbury. We are a communion. And this is because, as I said, we have no centralized office. So we are autonomous and yet interdependent. If you take anything away, if you forget everything I'm sharing with you today, please don't forget that. The Episcopal Church is autonomous. However, we are interdependent. That is why I am here. I can minister in any part of this diocese because I have the license of the Bishop of Texas. Now, this interdependence is important because we have what we call partners in mission. The Episcopal Church, I wish I knew what I know now about this church in 2015 when I became the Secretary General of this communion. I think I will have done better with the Episcopal Church because you are very, very rich in theology, in resources, in everything. I came back from Mozambique last week. I went to the Diocese of Libombo to run a workshop for them for 4 days. And I met the clergy. There are 36 of them. 25 of them are not paid. Those who are paid, they earn, I'm afraid to say this, $200 a month. $200 a month. In fact, I thought in the Church of Nigeria we were poor. $200. And the Vicar General was saying to me, please, when you go, tell our brothers and sisters in America, I can't even get this money to pay the 15 who are on full-time work. That's your part of your church. And yet, the people are growing. The church is alive. They contend with the Roman Catholic Church there. I was in Kondoa, in Tanzania, last year, with Trent, one of the priests, my colleague at SJD. That diocese is 96% Muslim, even though Tanzania is 68% Christian, but that diocese has 96%, the population is Muslim. You need to see what is going on there. That's the bad part. The good part. The breakaway congregations from here, they have done a good job. Watch my fingers, they've done a good job in the Global South of telling Anglicans in the Global South that there are no Christians in the Episcopal Church. I am not lying to you. I'm telling you what I have seen and what I've heard as Secretary General. They believe they are the only ones growing. We are not growing. Unfortunately, the people in the global south, a good number of them have bought into that. So our job, which we are promoting, is to change that narrative by letting parishes like St. Martin's to know what is going on there, and to get the global south to know that there are huge congregations that preach Christ, that promote the Christian faith, and they are very committed to Orthodox Christianity. When the Bishop of Kondoa came to St. John the Divine last year, June, he said, "Your Grace, you mean there are evangelicals in the Episcopal Church?" I'm not kidding. Even if you are taping this, I don't mind you taping it. "You mean there are evangelicals in the Episcopal Church?" I said, "Well, come and see." He came, he saw, he was convinced. So why do you need the communion? You need the communion, one, because the Lord has blessed you. The Lord has endowed the Episcopal Church with a lot of resources, theological, economic, human resource, everything. And as the Bible tells us, if one part suffers, every other part is suffering. So the communion today is not together. And it is because there is this false narrative. My challenge to all of you this morning is simple. What can we do to change the narrative there? We're not talking about politics. This is not politics. We're talking about human beings who, because they are Christians, are being denied. Another example, before the Lambeth Conference, in my position, I had to go around some of the provinces. And I was in Tanzania. I won't tell you lies, I'll give you specifics. And I met a bishop from here, one of the breakaway groups. And my job was to explain the agenda for the Lambeth Conference. They confided in me and said, "You see this bishop? He's come to say to us, if we go to Lambeth, they will cut off their support and their relationship with us." That's what is going on. From Sydney, it's exactly the same. So what can we do? Pray. I'm happy that in most of the Episcopal congregations I have had the privilege of visiting, they pray every Sunday for the parts of the communion. That is the most important thing. Number two, I would suggest that you visit them. I invited Compass Rose to Kaduna when I was a bishop there. And what they saw there changed their lives. I was talking about change this morning with the wise men. They went out, I took them to a village. And the village from the capital city is about 30 kilometers. It took us 4 hours. 4 hours. And on Sunday we worshipped with them. They were very excited. And then we left. The following Sunday, there was a Roman Catholic church a mile away in the village. The evangelist there led the whole congregation to our church. And the evangelist in our church said, "What's going on?" And they said to him, "Look, we were founded before you. You are only 3 years old. We've been there for about 8, 9 years. No priest has ever visited us. And you now had your brothers and sisters all the way from America coming to visit you. We want to become Episcopalians. I'm not kidding. It's there. If you ask any of the Compass Rose members that visited, they heard it. They saw it. All of them, they left the Roman Catholic Church just visiting. Virtual conferences are good, but they are no substitute for just being together. You need to see the situations where your brothers and sisters operate. So that is the second thing, apart from praying. And I will encourage you. I know you have a partnership with the Diocese of Arun in Democratic Republic of the Congo, and life there is just horrible. And I know you pray for them. I'm hoping that when the situation improves, you'll be able to either invite their bishop, or some of you will go there when the United States government allows Americans to travel there. You just need to see the situation where we operate. But this is a lovely family. It's beautiful, and the Episcopal Church, you have a very significant and important role to play. Moreover, because of what is going on, this is something I'm not sharing with joy, because I'm a member of the Church of England now. With what is going on in my adopted church, the Church of England, a lot of Anglicans now look up to the Episcopal Church. They know what is going on in the Episcopal Church. They know the role the Episcopal Church actually played. So I'm hoping that we will stand up, accept the challenge, and actually be willing to get to know. It's this fellowship thing. A lot of people, when they hear the Episcopal Church, they don't believe you are part of the Anglican Communion because we don't use Episcopal Church. We now know why you don't use Anglican, but you are even more Anglican than most of the people who say they are Anglicans. So we know what that means. So our role, particularly St. Martin's, because of your position, because of your strength, and because of what the Lord has deposited here, you have an important role to help us change the narrative in the Global South. Any questions? Maybe Jordan, if you stand with me so that you are dead. Yes, ma'am.
I want to know what to pray for Nigeria. It's in our Anglican cycle of prayer. So many of the dioceses are popping up in Nigeria. And based upon where we are in the alphabetical order, 2025 is going to have that same emphasis. What is going on, good or bad, in Nigeria that I want to know what to pray for?
Nationally, the country is struggling economically, and that affects the church. What should you pray for? Pray for the leadership, not to buy into politicians manipulating them. It's very important. When you are poor, you grab anything that comes your way. Secondly, pray for the leadership in the Anglican Church in Nigeria. They wear blinkers, and the leadership, they believe they are the only evangelicals. I'm a Nigerian, yes, even though I'm a British. I'm now a British Nigerian. They wear blinkers. They believe they are the only evangelicals in the Anglican Communion. It's arrogance. So I would request that we pray for that church to be humble, the leadership to be humble. Number 3, there is a lot of ignorance in that church. Anglicans do not really understand what our church is. So there is a need for education so that their eyes are open. And finally, that church does not get engaged in the society. When there is a need here, it's hard to hear that the Anglican Church in Nigeria is meeting the need of the people. They don't. And I'm speaking sadly from my heart. Somebody? Good. My time.
I was going to say, when they're talking about the evangelicals, what are their thoughts about, the difference between what they're talking about, their evangelical system versus what they appear or feel is not?
Thank you. I wish no one would ask that question, but you have. In Nigeria, Uganda, Rwanda, I call them the three musketeers. Unfortunately, Chile, my own friend there, the primate, has joined them. It's not good. For Nigeria, for them, this evangelical thing is all about homosexuality. The depth of corruption in that country, they don't talk about that. I hope you get my point. And that is what hurts some of us. Talk about corruption. Talk about behaving badly. Talk about the misuse of authority. They've changed authority into power. The primate just does whatever he wants to do. And no one challenges him. That's what it means to be an evangelical. I hope that I'm trying to narrow it down to so that you can pray. That church has a good number of what all of us here would term as evangelical, that is Bible believing, following biblical standards. They have a good number of bishops who believe that, but they cannot challenge the leadership. That's not what it means to be a Christian. I think a Christian should be able to say, look, why don't you look at it from this angle? But they can't do that, and it hurts. 2 weeks ago, I know you are taping this, so I will not be very specific. About a month ago, a bishop was visiting from somewhere. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. And when he got back, his primate said, oh, we heard you went to this bishop in the Episcopal Church. Well, will you explain? So he set up a committee without conferring with the other bishops. And of course, this bishop said, oh, okay, good. Now, I want to have the terms of reference. What are they coming for? And when he asked that question, he withdrew his question. He didn't send anybody. He now invited him. And then they had a chat over a cup of coffee. That's the sort of thing. For them, that's what it means to be an evangelical. To have this power, not authority. It's very sad. The primate of Uganda, while I was still in office, I said to him, look, I need to get through to the bishops in your province. He said to me, Your Grace, if you have anything to share with the bishops, let me have it. And then I will now know what to tell them. You don't run a church like that. That's why they need to know the Episcopal Church, where the bishop cannot just get up and say whatever he wants to say. He has to consult. So evangelicalism in most parts of the global south is authoritarianism. I think that's the term. I thank God that term has come to my head. It's authoritarianism, and that's not the gospel.
This is a social media question, so it may not be true, but they said the next Archbishop may not be from the UK.
It will take a miracle. Yeah. There are some of us that can read between the lines. It will take a miracle. But thank you for bringing that up. We need to pray for discernment. You know, we are now sort of split in the communion. That's why we need St. Martin's. We're split. A good number in the global south, they are sort of moving with the idea of confederation. There is a difference between a confederation and a communion. Communion is a gift. Oikumene is a gift in Christ. And because a lot of them are gearing towards confederation, my fear is this, that if they do not get an archbishop that will unite us, they may leave. So we need to pray for discernment. We already have 5 representatives from the 5 regions of the communion who will be joining the team from the UK. Please pray for them. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Let's go in the front.
Okay, I'm a map person, and I'm looking at the map. I assume the yellow is where there are Anglican or Episcopal churches are located. Why is there no presence in Greenland?
Sorry?
Why is there no presence in Greenland?
In Greenland?
Yes.
I think we are waiting for someone from St. Martin's.
Would you like to be a missionary?
You know, there is still room for missionaries. I mentioned in my sermon, the star will not lead you to Christ, but God begins from where we are. You have a lot of Muslims here, a lot of Hindus here, and other religious people. It is our responsibility to lead them from their own faith. And as Jordan informed you, my area of calling, I actually feel called to be an evangelist to the Muslim world, particularly in the northern parts of Nigeria. We are seeing the fruit. So who knows? We need to pray. I'm glad that at least someone has seen that there are gaps, there are parts where I think it's because the place is very cold. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you.